Choosing a microphone for your YouTube or your podcast or your streaming setup can be pretty overwhelming. There are loads and loads of microphones that you can choose from, and it's really hard to know which one is going to be right for you. So in this video, we're going to talk about 4 different types of microphones, a good use case for each of them, and we're going to ask a couple of questions about your setup to try and figure out which type of microphone is best for you. So a couple of quick disclaimers. I'm not an audio engineer, I'm not an audio expert. I just have had the opportunity to work with a lot of different microphones in a lot of different settings over the last decade. I enjoy microphones. I buy a lot of microphones, which is why there's a lot of microphones here on the table. I think I bought all of these, except this one, which hurts a little bit to look at. And hopefully the experience I've gained is beneficial to you in some capacity. Another disclaimer is that I'm only talking about XLR microphones in this video. And to use those, you're going to need something like an external recorder, like what we're using today is the Zoom PodTrack P4, or an audio interface to connect your microphone to your computer, or lastly, a camera that might be able to accept an XLR input and provide phantom power to the microphones that require it. So firstly, to try and figure out which microphone is going to be best for you, we've got to ask 2 main questions. Firstly, do you want the microphone to be in frame, like on camera, or do you want it to be boomed outside of the frame, kind of like what you're listening to right now? I've got a microphone boomed just outside of camera, right there. Secondly, is the room that you're in acoustically treated, or is it pretty noisy? This is a really important question to ask when choosing a microphone for your setup, because if your room is super loud and noisy, certain microphones are not going to be ideal for that situation. And there are other microphones that have a real strength in that situation where it doesn't quite gather as much background noise. So those are the 2 questions. Is your microphone in the frame or outside of the frame? And is your room acoustically treated? So first off, let's talk about microphones that are boomed outside of the frame. I'm going to try and make a recommendation for each type of microphone for under $100. So if you're looking at purchasing a microphone for a setup where you do not have the microphone in frame, you're probably looking at one of 2 options. That would be shotgun microphones and pencil condenser microphones. So far you've been listening to one of these. This is a pencil condenser microphone. This microphone in particular is a Samson CO2. Now it comes in a pair, so I've got another one boomed just outside of the frame, which is what you've been listening to for this whole video. I heard about this through Gerald Undone, watching one of his videos about his microphone setup, and I was surprised to find out that he'd been using this for a long time, and these are only $100 for 2. So you're talking about $50 per microphone. So for our podcast setup that when we first started doing podcasts, we managed to get 4 of them for $140, which is ridiculous. I mean, that's like $35 a piece. I think this audio that you're listening to is really, really good for $35. Now, pencil condensers in this sort of setup are ideal for indoor use, much more than outdoor use. So again, in this video, we're only talking about vocals here, and these microphones are used a lot for instruments like drum overheads and other things like that. We're not really going to be talking about that today. I think this microphone is ideal for indoor use when your room is not very well acoustically treated. Now, the alternative to something like a pencil condenser is a shotgun microphone. So now I've switched over to one of these, and this is a Synco Mic D2. It's a shotgun microphone, and I've got 2 of them. So I've got one here, one boomed just outside of the frame, just like last time. And I think this is a pretty good sounding microphone. I heard about this microphone through Booth Junkie, who compared it to the Sennheiser MKH416, which is a legendary microphone in the audio world as a boom microphone. Very, very popular, but it costs $1,000. Now these retail for somewhere around $200. And I say it like that because honestly, everywhere I've looked, there are different prices. I actually managed to get this one on eBay brand new for $75. And then I got a second one for $90. You can find these for under $100. They're harder to find under $100, but it is possible. Now, shotgun microphones are ideal for people who are doing a variety of work when it comes to vocal work. Indoor, outdoor, you got a boom operator running around, you put it inside a blimp, all those kinds of things. I find these to be a little bit more versatile, especially with outdoor use. For indoors, I think these suffer a little bit in a room that's not very well acoustically treated. And you might even be able to hear through this one, there's something a little bit muddy about it. And that might be this microphone in particular, but every shotgun microphone I've tried has a similar issue in a non-acoustically treated room. If you know much about that, there's something to do with phase, something. I'm not an expert. Write something down in the comments and let us know. But the pencil condenser has worked a lot better for me in this scenario. But shotguns are incredibly useful. Especially if you're doing indoor and outdoor work. So if you're looking for a microphone that you want to have boomed outside of the frame and you're doing a variety of different works in different settings, a shotgun is probably the way to go. So when talking about microphones that are boomed outside of the frame, these would be my 2 recommendations for under $100. kind of. So again, the Samsung microphones typically are about 110. You can definitely find them for cheaper, but that's for a pair of microphones. And I think these are fantastic for indoor use where your room is not very well acoustically treated. Secondly, if you've got a variety of things that you're wanting to film and do audio for, indoor and outdoor, especially if your indoor environment is well acoustically treated, a shotgun microphone is going to serve you really well. Now, real quick, before we continue this video, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who watched my last video. I put out a video about building a Sony ZV-E10 into a cinema rig, which is actually what you've been watching this whole video on so far. And I was hoping to get like 100 views, and it's currently at about 5,000, which is completely ridiculous. Just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who liked and commented and subscribed. I was really, really encouraged by all of your feedback. So again, if you're enjoying this video, I'd love it if you'd give it a like, drop a comment, follow along as we try to build this channel. I'd really appreciate it. So back to microphones. The second question we were going to ask is, what do you want your microphone to be on camera or boomed outside of the frame? If you want it to be on camera, there are two main types of microphones that we're going to be looking at today, and that is dynamic microphones and large diaphragm condensers. So let's start with dynamics. This is a dynamic microphone. This one in particular is the 512 Audio Limelight. It's an interesting microphone. It retails for about $200, which honestly, in my opinion, is too much for this microphone. But on Black Friday this year, it was down to $38, which is a fantastic deal on this microphone. We're going to switch over. You're listening to the pencil condenser, boom, just outside of the frame, and we're going to switch over to the dynamic. Now, immediately you'll notice a substantial difference in sound. You have a very classic, stereotypical, boomy podcast broadcast style sound to it. And hopefully you've also noticed that if there is any fan or room noise going on, that's probably all gone. These types of microphones do a fantastic job at room rejection, which sort of means that if you're in a room that's not acoustically treated or you've got air conditioning units going on, these sorts of microphones are going to do a really good job of isolating your voice and giving you that very focused style to your vocals. Now, this microphone in particular has a couple of drawbacks, mainly its handling noise. So if I touch the microphone, you'll notice, I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, I have no idea why it's that bad or why they would ship it out that bad. But this seems to be a common thing with this microphone, is the handling noise is terrible. Now, another thing that's kind of a negative is that it is incredibly light. Like bizarrely light for a microphone. It's under 1 pound, which is very, very light. So it kind of feels a little bit like a toy. It looks good. I think it looks fantastic on camera. But yeah, it's very, very light. So it's hard to know what they cut to sort of get the weight down so much, but just something to be aware of. If you're interested in this microphone, I'll leave a link down below. It's typically over $100, so a bit outside of our price range, but if you can find it on sale, or if you can, especially if you can get it what I got it for, I think it's a really good deal. Alternatively, if you want another dynamic microphone option under $100, something like the Rode PodMic is a fantastic microphone. I used to have one, unfortunately I sold mine, but I'm going to pick up another one to compare to this, but that's a fantastic microphone for under $100. So dynamic microphones. This is the type of microphone you're going to want if your room is not acoustically treated, or if you just like that podcasty broadcast style of vocals, and this is going to work really well for you. Now, an alternative to a dynamic microphone is going to be a large diaphragm condenser microphone. And this is a large diaphragm condenser. We're back on the pencil condenser at this point, but this microphone in particular is the Bluebird. This is the old version, it's not the new one. The SL model, this is the original one, and I much prefer the look of this one, and I think it just looks beautiful on camera. I think if you're looking to put a microphone on camera, the aesthetics are really important. That's something you're going to want to consider, is something that looks good in frame. If it's outside of the frame, it doesn't really matter as much, but I think, you know, audio is obviously very important. That's the main reason you get a microphone, but the looks of a microphone is important. We don't want to neglect that. And I think large diaphragm condensers, especially ones like this, look fantastic. So again, we're on the pencil condenser. We're going to switch over to this one, and hopefully you'll notice a couple of things. So now you're listening to the large diaphragm condenser, and you should notice it's got an incredibly rich, vibrant, but natural tone. When dynamic microphones have a very focused, podcasty sound to them, large diaphragm condenser microphones have a very rich, natural sound to them. So that really might help you decide what type of microphone you want. Do you want the dynamic podcast style, or do you like the rich and natural style of a large diaphragm condenser? Now, the downside to these type of microphones is that they are going to amplify whatever room noise you might have going on in your space. So if you have air conditioning units, or if you've got people running around outside, these sorts of microphones is going to pick all of that up, and it's going to emphasize it. Now this microphone retails for about $300, which is a lot of money and is pretty far outside our $100 budget. But this one was used and is quite old, and I managed to get it on eBay for $90. And if you're willing to shop used and deal with some eBay bids or shopping around, you can get some really, really good deals. If you don't want to shop used and you don't really want to take that risk, which is totally okay, I have another option for you, brand new, that is under $100. Now this is the Neat Worker Bee. Its looks have caused quite a lot of controversy as to whether it is pretty or not. Personally, I love the look of this. I think it's got a really nice, unique look to it. And also, the sound out of this microphone for the price is very, very good. This microphone, brand new, is under $70, I believe. I'll leave a link down below so you can check it out. And I think for the price of it, it's a really good deal. We're going to switch over. I'm going to switch from the Bluebird with $300 microphone over to this, a $70 microphone. So now you're listening to the Neat Worker Bee, and I think honestly for the price it is fantastic. And if you don't like the aesthetics of this microphone, there's actually a new version, the Neat Worker Bee 2, which is all black and has probably a more neutral look to it. So if you don't really like the black and yellow look, if that's not going to match your setup, the Neat Worker Bee 2 might be a really good option. So I think if you're looking for a large diaphragm condenser microphone, if you've got a well acoustically treated space and you don't want to spend more than $100, the Neat Worker Bee is a fantastic microphone to go for. So I hope this video has been helpful to you. Hopefully it has helped you decide what type of microphone is going to be best for your setup. So let me know down below, what type of microphone do you think is best for your setup? Do you like the podcast broadcast style microphone sound, or do you prefer the rich natural sound of a large diaphragm condenser? Or do you think it's better to just have the microphone outside of the frame? Is it less distracting to you? And did you prefer the pencil condenser that you're listening to right now, or the shotgun? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, and yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day.